Peaceful People. This is Emily from the Peaceful People Project. As some of you may know, yesterday, March 8th, was International Women's Day. I was involved in a few different events that were held here in Barrie, and of course I made this video to share all that with you. But before I do that, I'd like to tell you a true story of a brilliant woman, a very talented musician and composer who was unfortunately marginalized just because she was female. Her name was Nannerl Mozart. For those of you who may not know, Nannerl Mozart was the older sister of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who is the famous Mozart who we all know and love. In the early days, when Nannerl, Wolfgang, and their father Leopold Mozart would travel for performances, it was Nannerl who was given the top billing because she was 5 years older, and probably a bit ahead of her brother for at least the first few years. Now, at the time, a lot of people would have said that Nannerl was just as talented at the piano, the harpsichord, and musical composition as her brother Wolfgang was. And ironically, one of the people who would have told you that was Wolfgang himself. He looked up to his big sister a great deal, and the two of them were very close growing up. Unfortunately, though, Nannerl Mozart was not able to use her talents to the fullest potential. As she got older, she was gradually shunted aside by their father, Leopold Mozart, and when she reached the age of 18, she was no longer allowed to perform in public or to share her compositions. This is why none of her work survives to this day. Just because she was female, her career was cut short, and she's been forced to fade into obscurity. So you'd think that people would have learned from Nannerl Mozart's story, but unfortunately, this wasn't the case. For years after Nannerl Mozart was gone and forgotten, women have continued to have to fight for everything. For the right to vote, the right to drive, the right to own land, the right to work in jobs comparable to men and to be paid equal wages, the right to choose between having a career and staying home and raising children. Some people might say that women have already won. I don't believe that to be true. Yes, it's true that women can choose between having a career and being stay-at-home mothers. But there's a lot of judgment on both sides. A lot of people will tell you that stay-at-home mothers are lazy. A lot of people will tell you that career women are selfish. So this puts a lot of women in impossible situations where they're forced to go to work every day and work a full day, and then come home and take care of all the domestic responsibilities: cooking, cleaning, childcare, elder care if they're also caring for aging parents. A lot of the time, if the children are enrolled in daycare, it comes out of the woman's paycheck and not her husband's. We have women suffering in silence from abuse at the hands of their partners. And that's just in first world countries. In a lot of developing countries, it's much worse. Women there are forced to be married off when they're very young, and they're forced to have children when they're not physically ready for it. And this leads to a lot of medical problems, not even touching the emotional problems. It leads to fractured hips and pelvises and fistulas and children who are being raised in abject poverty, perpetuating the cycle. Yes, there are foreign aid programs, but most of the money goes to boys, to men. Most of the time, it's girls who are forced to stay home from school and take care of younger siblings while their brothers go to school. That's why we observe International Women's Day every year. This is not a complete solution. We shouldn't just be thinking about these issues on International Women's Day. We should think about them and remember them all the time. But International Women's Day is a start. It gets people talking. So, yesterday, I had a full day of events. I began the day at the farmers market at City Hall with other people in my Amnesty International chapter. And some people from 1 Billion Rising also came. They did a flash mob in a global protest against violence against women. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to film this because they did their flash mob right at the edge of the skating rink outside of City Hall, and of course you're not allowed on the skating rink without skates. But I did get a lot of good footage of other parts of the day. After the farmers market, I went over to the D.I.Y Arts Collective, where I got to show one of my paintings, Judgment. It's the one that's shown in the, I guess, opening montage. I was involved in a project called We Care with Underwear, where we sewed underwear and reusable cloth pads for women in Haiti and Zimbabwe who recently suffered a series of earthquakes. I got to see performances by the Raging Grannies, who sing songs about equality for women. We also got to see a really good performance by a belly dancing group called High Rolls Jewels. And then after that, they taught us a few basic steps. So, without further ado, I would like to share this day with you. And I'd really love to hear what you guys did for International Women's Day. So, let's roll the clips.